This is the Chappell Real Estate Show, episode number 38.
Welcome to the Chappell Real Estate Show, your source for the latest real estate information so you can buy, sell, and invest with the best in Texas. Whether you're a first-time buyer, a current homeowner, or a seasoned investor, you've come to the right place. We're here to simplify all things real estate so you can achieve your goals of property ownership with your hosts, Daniel and Roger Chappell.
What's up, listeners, and thank you guys for tuning into the Chappell Real Estate Show, your source for the latest real estate information so that you can learn how to buy, sell, and invest with the best. So, with the holidays being just around the corner, today's episode is all about the attitude of gratitude. So today, I'm joined by my co-host, Roger, my dad, who, him and my mom have taught me this attitude of gratitude growing up my entire life. So let me introduce Dad, and Dad, give us a little bit of a tidbit about what is this attitude of gratitude.
Hello, everybody. It's very simple. Attitude of gratitude speaks volumes by itself. Literally, it's all about being grateful, not just grateful for the physical things that you have, but being grateful for the situation you find yourself in, the fact that we live in the United States of America and we have such wonderful opportunities. Just be grateful. Be grateful to the people that you work with, the people that you work for. Just be grateful. It's very simple. Attitude of gratitude is all about being grateful.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. So we'll call that today's Chappell chunk is, just embody this attitude of gratitude. Be grateful for everything that you have in front of you. And today we're just going to kind of go through, what exactly is gratitude? What are some of the stages of expressing gratitude? And some tips and tricks that you can use in your day-to-day life so that you can really, just be sure that you're expressing gratitude and being grateful for everything that you have. So what is gratitude? Well, gratitude is defined as the quality of being thankful. It's having a readiness and appreciation to return kindness. For me, especially during the holiday season, there's always many reasons to be thankful. I feel like this is one of those times a year where, gratitude is emphasized with, holidays like Thanksgiving and spending a lot of time with the family around, Christmas or Hanukkah or, any whatever holiday it is that you celebrate around this time of year. So, I feel like it's highlighted in this time of year, but it's not one of those things that is practiced on an annual basis every day, day in and day out. And it really shows, especially in today's culture where, the news is constantly feeding us negative information or misinformation, and there's just so much negativity everywhere. So for me, this attitude of gratitude, there's never been a more important time to discuss this particular topic. But Dad, what is the attitude of gratitude? What is gratitude? What does it mean to you?
Well, it's very simple. It's like you said, it's about being grateful year round and not just this time of year. And like you said, this time of year it gets highlighted. But to be honest, it's one of those things that as a leader of my team and as a leader within our brokerage, one of the things that I do my best at is trying to show appreciation to everyone around me. Everything from our team members to the folks that we work with, all of our vendors and things of that nature, the people in the office, and it's thanking them for doing the things that they do on a daily basis. But it's not just that. What about our kids? Like you guys, I'm constantly, or at least I hope I constantly mention to you guys how grateful I am for you guys and what you all have done and who all you have become, or who you have all become. It's truly a moment of pride for your mom and I. We cannot speak highly enough of you guys, and that's all three of you. And then, of course, gratitude for you and your brand new wife. By the way, congratulations on getting married. And we welcome Liliana with open arms and very, very happy and excited that she's a part of our family now, officially a part of our family. So, attitude of gratitude for me is literally all about giving back some kind of way, just something small, changing a flat tire maybe, giving the proper directions, trying to help a fellow agent through whatever they may be going through. Who knows what it can be. It can be something very simple or it can be very complex. It just depends.
Yeah, and you gave a lot of really good examples of expressing gratitude, but one of the ones that to me I feel like is very often overlooked is, not just gratitude towards other people and the things that they do for you, but even gratitude towards just the little things like, your health, your happiness, the little things that you get to experience on a day-to-day basis. Waking up in the morning, I mean, that to me is a huge one that I always try to express gratitude for. I'm thankful to have another day to be here because God's not finished with me yet, and I still have something to accomplish today and every day forward. So, it's so much more than just, like you mentioned, me working in the restaurant industry, every time that I go in for work, I express gratitude to all of my team members. I would come in, hey, thank you guys for being here today. Thank you for all that you do. When we get through a crazy rush of business, hey, you guys did a great job. Thank you guys so much for keeping your heads up, keeping your smiles on. It's so much. There's so many things to be grateful for in this life. So, I want to talk about something that to me is very important, and life has its ups and downs. There's always stages in life. We've talked about that before in previous episodes, but there's ups and there's downs. And during times of extreme difficulty, it can be really hard to express gratitude. Especially when you're going through challenging times. And, I know for me, when I was in debilitating debt and, changing careers, moving, a lot of these really highly stressful situations, it's hard to find things to be grateful for because it's so easy to focus on the difficulties that you're experiencing. So I want to talk about the 3 stages of gratitude and how you can take some of those negative moments and figure out where to express gratitude in those situations. So, Dad, why don't you give our listeners the first stage of gratitude?
Well, first it's recognition. And recognition isn't just about recognizing someone else. It's recognizing when one should be grateful. So, for example, like you mentioned, getting up in the morning, it's funny. The older I get and the more health issues I come up with, which in the grand scheme of things are minor, but getting up in the morning is sometimes quite difficult. The knees start hurting and, who knows. So just getting out of bed sometimes is painful. But I'm grateful that I'm able to do that, to get out of bed. Be grateful for that. At least I'm on this side of the dirt and not 6 feet under it. That's always a beautiful thing. And I joke with many of my friends about that exact thing. But it's not just that. It's truly recognizing when we should express our gratitude. So it can be in those times of difficult situations. For example, like when Liliana was in a hospital, showing gratitude to the nurses for the care that they provided her and the doctors and the surgical teams and everybody that was looking after her. That's a really good time to express gratitude. Because a lot of times, you got to figure these folks in the healthcare industry, they're dealing with bad news every single day. Their sense of humor and their sense of being and who they are sometimes gets kind of lost in all of that.
I'm glad you bring that up because there was one nurse in particular who came in to visit with Liliana at, one of the most difficult times. It was actually just after they had given her diagnosis of SMA syndrome. And she, having given that diagnosis and not having a lot of information about what it was, what it meant, the doctors still hadn't really come in to explain what the long-term repercussions of that syndrome were. And it was just, you talk about a down time where, you're just not sure, like, what does this mean for me? This nurse came in and shared her story with Liliana, just gave her somebody to listen to when I couldn't be there because I had to be at work. And, it was a very difficult time. And, that's just such a good point, being grateful for those people that come into your life at just the right time. And, even me not being able to be there, I'm grateful for that nurse for being there for her at that moment in time. And I'm also grateful for the opportunity to be at work and be able to, because I had just started a new job not 2 weeks before Liliana went to the hospital. So, even though I couldn't be there with her, and that was something that was really difficult for me, I was still grateful for the new job opportunity that provided me with enough income to be able to support Liliana and be able to pay for all of these new medical expenses that we were having to go through. I mean, there's so many layers to that.
Exactly. And it's being able to recognize when to be able to show that gratitude or that express that gratitude to someone else. And, sometimes we don't recognize it right away. Sometimes it takes us a minute or two. But then as soon as we do, we need to acknowledge them very quickly.
Yeah, so that leads us into the second stage of gratitude, and that is acknowledgement. So acknowledgement is so important, and I've always told anybody who is in a downtime to think back and remember the things that you've accomplished, because to me that is so important. I feel like it's so easy to get focused on the downturns and how difficult things are right now, but it's even more difficult to look back and think about the things that you've been able to accomplish, the things that you've overcome that make the situations around you now so much more, worthy. I've heard something along the lines of, it's the process that makes things worth doing. If you were to become a millionaire tomorrow, if somebody deposited $1 million into your bank account, how is that going to make you feel? Well, it's not going to make you feel much different than you did yesterday, because the reality is you're still the same person. And it's always the process that makes things worthwhile. So, to me, acknowledging your past successes, your future aspirations, and knowing that things are not always as bad as they may seem is so important. We'll talk here in a minute about how expressing gratitude can alter your brain chemistry, and it's such an important thing, especially when you are in times of difficulty. Thinking about the things that you've accomplished are what kind of gives you hope for a better future. It gives you the courage to try things that maybe you weren't, confident enough to try. I know from my own experience that, changing jobs, changing careers multiple times over the last, 7 or 8 years, it's scary. It's not something that's easy, but every time I've accomplished something more difficult, I try to think back of the last time that I went through a career change, or when I went through a big move, or changed cities, or, just all these different things, making big decisions. I remember making the decision to drop out of college was something that, I did, and I somewhat regretted for a short period of time, but then I just had to look forward and acknowledge that I made that decision, and now I have these other opportunities ahead of me. So to me, that's kind of what acknowledgement is all about, is knowing when it's time to acknowledge your feelings and acknowledge, your accomplishments, so that you can push forward into that next phase.
So that brings up a story that I have about former President Obama. He made a statement, and I don't remember exactly when it was, but his statement was simply, and it was made to business owners, small business owners in particular, and basically the phrase that he said was, quote, "You did not build that," unquote. Now, that's not what he meant. I'm sure that's not how he meant that to come out. But of course, the news media blew that thing all up, and it got blown out of whack. I think what he was trying to say is, at that point, it's time for people to acknowledge that even though, like, I've got a couple of businesses now, and yes, I built those businesses, but I didn't do it by myself. I had help along the way from a number of different people. So even though, yes, I feel like we've been quite successful in our ventures, the acknowledgement is, I didn't do all of that alone. I had a lender to help out. I had your brother helping out doing the operations side of things. I had your mom helping out handling the financial side of things. And basically, I just got to be a figurehead and kind of sign a check or two here and there. So with those kinds of things, I think that's what President Obama was shooting for, was, it's time to acknowledge that as successful as we are, there are other people that actually helped us get to where we're at. And that's part of that acknowledgement process.
Yeah, that's a really good point. you can't do it alone. And I think in both of our positions, you being the team leader for the Chappell Realty Group, me and managing restaurants, it's I could not run a restaurant by myself. I mean, I have a team of 35 people that help me keep that store running and operating and serving our customers to the best of their ability, and prepping and cooking and providing excellent quality food all the time. Those are things I couldn't do alone. It's just flat out, I can't. I've tried to do it with just a few people, and it's incredibly difficult. So, you can't do that stuff alone. You can't go at it alone.
Yep, I agree.
So that kind of leads us into the third stage, which is appreciation. So, Dad, kind of talk about that one for us.
So it's at this point that we all really begin to truly appreciate what it is that we have. And that is pretty much all encompassing. And it's, like you said before, it is so many layers. And how do we show that appreciation is multifaceted. And there's some very interesting things about showing appreciation and gratitude towards others that actually physically happens with our mindset. It's truly unreal. And I have a really good example of this. I can remember as a police officer, there were multiple opportunities that I had to help people. There were multiple opportunities I had to take, some really bad people off the streets as well. But the times that I can remember the most where I had the biggest impact on folks was one of the things that to me was very minor. At least for me, it was minor, such as changing a flat tire for a young lady and her daughter leaving the airport. I did not realize what a big deal that was for them. And for me, it was nothing more than pulling off the side of the road. It's late. They're on a pretty desolate road. They needed to change the tire real quick, so I changed the tire. I didn't even think about it. It was not a big deal. But the letter that I received a couple of days later about that and them expressing their gratitude and acknowledging me for that was truly one of the reasons that I do this. Or that I help people. And then, of course, in real estate, you and I get the opportunity to help people all the time. And the gratitude that we receive from those folks is, that's why I do this. It's not just for the money, because we can get that anywhere. It's more about solving people's problems and helping them and expressing the gratitude that we have for our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. The appreciation piece is so important, and I think it's the active piece of gratitude, right? Because we'll talk about a study here in a minute about how important it is to express gratitude, whether it be outwardly or even inwardly. But to me, the appreciation piece is kind of the pay it forward piece, making sure that you express your gratitude towards the people that have helped you, towards the situations that have helped you, whatever you believe in, if it's God, some kind of higher power, or nothing at all, expressing gratitude in whatever way you can is so important. And I truly believe that the more you express gratitude, maybe it's the law of attraction or what, but expressing gratitude, more good comes into your life when you express gratitude outwardly. So as I mentioned before, in a world where the news embodies this term, if it bleeds, it leads, and they're constantly feeding you stories of doom and gloom, it's really important to understand the impact that an attitude of gratitude can have on your mind, your body, your soul. So I want to talk about a study that basically talks about how this attitude of gratitude can alter your brain chemistry. So there was a study that featured 300 adults, most of whom were college students who were looking for mental health counseling. And they found 4 things about gratitude that I feel like are so important, and I want to talk about those 4 things today. But let me tell you a little bit about the study first. So the study, half of the adults were asked to write letters of gratitude over a series of 12 weeks, and the other half did not. And basically they filled out surveys throughout that 12 weeks. After the 12-week period, they did MRIs to actually study what was happening in the brain for those who did write gratitude letters and for those who didn't. And they found some very, very interesting things. So, Dad, why don't you talk about the first finding that they had in this study?
So it looks like the first finding they found is that expressing gratitude seemed to release us from a lot of these toxic attitudes and toxic emotions that we hold up within ourselves. And then it had an overall effect on one's mental health. and a significant improvement for those who use negative words in their writing. They stop doing that so much. By expressing gratitude, you're not writing negative stuff. You're actually being very positive. So by expressing that in a positive outlook, it seems like it had a positive impact on our brain chemistry.
Yeah, and what to me was most interesting about that piece is that, it wasn't so much the use of positive words that changed the mindset and mentality around gratitude. It was actually using fewer negative words that had the highest impact. And I thought that was very profound. It's not just adding positivity, but it's replacing negativity with positivity that had the highest effect. And that makes perfect sense when you put it in terms like that. But I just found that to be very interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So the second thing that they found about gratitude is that it helps even if you don't share it. So only 23% of the people who wrote these letters of gratitude actually sent them and delivered them to the people that they were intended for. So I thought that was very interesting too, that only a fourth of the participants actually sent their letters off, but the impact of those letters of gratitude was still the same. So what I thought was interesting about that is that it's not just expressing the gratitude and then seeing how it impacts the person who you're expressing that gratitude towards. It was actually just simply the act of expressing gratitude in a written form that caused the biggest change in the brain chemistry. Isn't that interesting?
It is. And, it also kind of lends credence to all of these successful coaches that we talk to that talk about journaling. And I'm probably the world's worst at journaling. But I have heard this again and again and again, that if we handwrite words of affirmation in our journals and talk about good things that have happened to us throughout the day, that our overall mental health improves over a period of time. And it doesn't take that long. I mean, look, this study was only 3 months. 3 months. And they noticed that kind of a significant change. That to me is huge.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say only 3 months, because for us, I feel like 3 months isn't really a very long time, but we're in an industry where things move pretty slowly, right? We do real estate. In the real estate business, contracts last 30, 45, 60. We have some commercial deals that have lasted 6 months to a year, some even longer. So, we're in an industry where things move a little bit slower. But for somebody who, maybe does something else for a living, like, for example, even in the restaurant industry, it's very fast moving. Things happen very, very quickly. And, we also have things like social media and this microwave mentality, this instant gratification. So 3 months can sound like a really long time. So the third part of what they found about gratitude is that the benefits of gratitude take time. So over that period of over that period of 12 weeks, they were doing, little studies every couple of weeks to see where the progress was. And after 1 week, they didn't really see much of a change at all between the control group and the group that was writing the letters. But after 4 weeks, they started to notice a little bit of an impact. And then after 12 weeks, there was even a more significant impact. And that was after 12 weeks that they actually found that it did, in fact, alter the brain chemistry and how it responded to different scenarios. So we'll talk about that here in just a moment. But yeah, the attitude of gratitude, it takes time to experience the benefits. So, I want to talk about just a couple of things that you can do to start expressing that gratitude. And one of my favorites that I like to do is gratitude walks. So my wife and we like to go out on walks in the mornings, and I don't take my phone out on my walk. I do take my watch just so I can track how far I'm going. But really, the purpose of that walk is to be a little bit disconnected, to have a little bit more control over my morning, and to just listen to the trees, listen to the birds, see the nature. We have deer that walk around in the neighborhood, and we have beautiful trails where we can see different kinds of birds and animals, and we see rabbits, and I've seen bobcats on our walks before. I mean, just all kinds of different things. And it's, expressing gratitude and being more present in that moment. So gratitude walks are something that you can do to, really start expressing gratitude and start to slowly see some of the benefits. Dad, what's something you like to do to express gratitude?
Well, you know me and handwritten notes. I do write quite a few handwritten notes. I also make a lot of phone calls. And a lot of times, too, I like to express that gratitude often and face to face. So, but it looks to me like after the study, like the handwritten notes might be the better way to do that. And there have been many times where I've written a note to someone for something just as like a general manager of a hotel where we stayed and expressed gratitude to specific employees, thanking them for some of the things that they've done. And your mom and I have gotten into the habit of doing that frequently as well. There's just something about a handwritten note that seems to resonate with people. And in a way, I guess, I don't know if it necessarily made me feel better, but apparently there's something to this in this study. So that's interesting.
Yeah. And like I said, we'll talk about that here in just a second about how, just writing down those little gracious notes can really alter your brain chemistry and how you respond to different things. Something else that you can definitely start doing, and you'll notice this just kind of like when you buy a new car and then all of a sudden that car is everywhere. After listening to this episode and hearing us say gratitude a million times over, you're probably going to notice in little scenarios throughout your day of people expressing gratitude. So take the time to observe those interactions. How are others expressing gratitude? Are they thanking people in the grocery checkout line? I know one of the things that I like to do is whether I'm in, a restaurant, if I'm at the hospital, if I'm going through the grocery store line, I like to thank the people that are there just for being there to, do the job that a lot of people won't do right now. Being in the restaurant industry, it's very difficult to find staffing in a lot of places. So I know, I greatly appreciate people who show up to work and do those things that other people aren't willing to do right now. But start by observing these interactions and seeing how other people are expressing gratitude.
So one of the other things you can do is to pick one interaction a day. So what does that mean? If you're, like Daniel just mentioned, if you're in the grocery store, show some gratitude to the clerk at the counter who's running the groceries. And you'd be surprised. If you're in the bank, which, not many people stand in line at the bank anymore, but you'll notice the clerks and some of these folks who are on their feet all day, towards the end of the day, you can see it in their faces. They're getting a little tired, they're getting a little run down, and they may start to get a bit of an attitude. If we express our gratitude towards them and thank them just for being there, watch how that attitude immediately changes. It'll put a smile on their face. One of the things that I like to do to express the gratitude is one phrase that I like to use that works dramatically well is if somebody says a joke or says something that puts a smile on your face, just simply tell them, "You just made my day." That phrase right there, "you just made my day, you put a smile on my face," is amazing how that works. Believe it or not, that has helped create some really great relationships and some really good conversations, especially in our line of work where sometimes it gets a little stressful, it gets a little hectic. If we can express that gratitude just simply by saying, "You put a smile on my face today, that made my day." Huge, huge impact.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of those phrases that when you use it, you can see people's faces light up, because who doesn't want to make somebody's day?
Yep, immediately.
So another thing that I like to do, and I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier on in the episode, is remember the bad. Remember the things that you've been able to overcome, because it really gives perspective. I think perspective is so important when it comes to expressing gratitude and seeing how far you've come, the things you've been able to accomplish. I know for my wife, one of the things that she tends to forget is that she went through, she graduated from college. Not only did she graduate from college, but she graduated with honors. And, she graduated with a major and a minor and went on to do graduate school. And after about 2 semesters of graduate school, she decided that she didn't want to continue to pursue that. And, I remember when she made the decision to drop out of graduate school, how down she felt. And I just remember trying to explain to her that, it's okay. There are still other things that you've been able to accomplish. There's still many other things that you're going to accomplish. And at the end of the day, it's about being happy. And that wasn't just a decision that she made lightly. There was a lot of thought that went into that decision. And, it's one of those things where you have to remember the things that you've accomplished, because when you're feeling down, it's very easy to feel down about yourself and not think about all of those difficulties that you've overcome, the things you've been able to overcome, and that make you who you are today. So to me, the most difficult situations that I've been through were the making of me, and made me a much stronger person, a much wiser person, made me a more focused person, and made me evaluate the things that were most important to me. So to me, that one is one that really strikes close to home, is remember the bad and remember the things that you've been able to overcome.
Yeah, so I agree with that. And it's remember the bad, don't dwell on the bad. So no matter what it is that we've been through, all of our struggles help define who we are as people, as an individual. All of the past experiences I've had have made me the man that I am today. So I can't forget any of that stuff. I'm not saying that I dwell on it either, but I do remember some of the tough times. But it's funny, when I look back, those tough times don't seem so tough anymore. It's like just another bump in the road. So much so that even nowadays, when we're faced with a little bit of turmoil, take a deep breath, relax, look at some of the grateful things that you have in your life, and then that will help you overcome some of the bad stuff. And it's easy to say when you're not going through it. But for those that are struggling right now and going through some difficult times, mark my words, once you get through the other side of it, 2, 3, 4 months from now, you'll look back and you may not even remember what started all of that. You might. I mean, if it's severe enough, you will. But for the most part, you probably won't. So that's just one of the things that to me is important to maintain. Don't dwell on the past. Remember it, but don't dwell on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing that we're going to recommend for you before we talk about this final piece and the final finding of this study is, and this is a challenge that I want myself and Dad, I want you to hold yourself to as well, and that's to start a gratitude journal. I've been talking for so long about wanting to do that consistently. And I think it's important that, especially while we're talking to our listeners about this, that we take the time to express gratitude, to write gratitude down. And we'll talk about the findings of that study here in just a moment of why it's so important to write those things down.
That's a good idea. And, to hold ourselves accountable, maybe we can read out some of those journal entries in future podcasts.
Yeah, I would love to do that. And I would love to hear from our listeners too. Send us a couple of the things that you're grateful for so that we can share your little gratitude journal entries with our listeners as well. So the last finding that they did in this study was that gratitude has lasting effects on the brain. So after 12 weeks, they did MRIs to observe what happened in the brain if a benefactor donated money to a participant of the study. And what was very interesting about this is that the donor would ask them to pay it forward if they felt gracious by the donation, if they felt gratitude from the donation from that benefactor. From that donor. And what they did is they monitored what happened on the MRI and to see if there was a certain part of the brain that lit up. And basically what they were looking for is, were they paying it forward? Were they feeling good about paying it forward? Or were they paying it forward out of guilt? And I found that to be very interesting, in that the group of 150 that had been writing the gratitude letters, they felt gratitude when they were paying it forward. They accepted that donation from the donor, and then they went and gave it to an organization or gave it to a friend in need, or something along those lines. Whereas the other group was still paying it forward, but there was a certain part of their brain that wasn't lighting up because they were doing it simply because they felt like they had to, as an obligation, because they were asked to do it. So I thought that was very interesting, because when you're expressing gratitude, whether it be outwardly, verbally, or if you're just writing it down in a journal or in a letter, it changes the way that you respond to other situations. So when people do positive things to you, being able to pay it forward in a meaningful way, I just feel like that's so impactful. I feel like that's such a big difference. And when you talk about being in a negative headspace and you're doing something because you feel obligated to, that's not contributing to, your positive mindset. I don't know. What do you think, Dad?
I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I can think of many times where I have felt guilty giving uh, certain donations away just because I felt like I had to. But then again, I've also been on the flip side of that coin where I have been extremely grateful to be able to give financially. And, it's funny because I give time like it's nothing. But time is money as well. But I give my time freely. I don't give a lot of financial freely. And there's a number of reasons why. But for me, giving something financial because I'm able to afford it and I feel good about doing it, there's a big difference between that and doing it because I feel like I have to. I just have to do this versus I'm really happy to be able to do this. And I can think of many times where I've been on both sides of that coin. So this actually resonates with me. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of wrap things up, I want to just express a little bit of gratitude for our listeners and share a couple of things that I'm grateful for just this week. So first of all, thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this episode, to listen to all of our episodes that we've put out. We love creating this content for you. We love delivering great information for you. As we move into the rest of the holiday season, I'm so grateful for you and for your followership. It's so important to us, and we greatly appreciate you. Couple of the things that I'm grateful for. One, I'm grateful to have a roof over my head. I'm grateful to have a partner whom I love, who I was able to marry this past weekend, who I can now call my wife. Woo! And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be a leader for my clients and to be a leader for the people that work for me in my restaurants. I'm grateful for the opportunity to move on to my new location where I'm going to be opening a new Chipotle restaurant in the Hutto area and then into the Leander area as well. So new restaurant openings, new opportunities, not just for me, but for anybody who's interested. So, those are some of the things that I'm grateful for. Dad, what are some of the things that you're grateful for this week?
Well, very similar to you, I'm extremely grateful for our listeners and our clients that we've worked with, not just this past year, but over the past several years. I'm grateful that I passed the broker's test, so yay, I've got my broker's license now. So that's a huge load off of my back. I'm also grateful for the fact that we were able to get our family together on several occasions just over the past 3 weeks. We had Thanksgiving, we had Savannah's birthday, and then, of course, your wedding. And I cannot tell you from my perspective how important that was and how grateful I am that we were able to make all of that happen. That just our family closeness is something that I missed as a kid growing up and that I'm able to experience as a grown man now. And for that, I am extremely grateful. And finally, and probably one of the most important things, I'm extremely grateful for your mom. She's been a huge, tremendous support for me and my career choices from the moment that we met until today. And, we're coming up on our 30th anniversary. And I just extremely grateful to her and all that she means to me. And of course, to you guys as the family, as the glue that keeps us all together. So all of that, I'm grateful. And I hope, by the way, this is our last episode of the year. We've got some other content that we're working on, and we've got some ideas from some folks out there. And we're hopefully going to have some more guests coming up in 2022. We will be doing this bi-weekly instead of every week. It's been extremely difficult to get Daniel together and do this every week, so we'll be able to work on it every other week. But we're still grateful for the opportunity to keep this thing going, and we look forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys again for taking the time to listen to this episode and to follow us. We look forward to spending more time with you guys in 2022, and we wish you, the happiest of holidays and a happy new year. Thank you again, and this is the Chappell Realty Group signing off. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Chappell Real Estate Show. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and leave us a review. Find us on social media at Chappell Realty Group and online at chappellrealtygroup.com. Until next time.